and welcome everyone to this fireside chat with Brock Pierce. We've got a really exciting discussion coming up called Bitcoin and the positive impact that it can have on a country that embraces it. And I think there's nobody better to talk about than Brock. He's been described as a philanthropist, an investor, an entrepreneur, an activist, a former actor, and more recently he's actually got into politics. So, Brock, if I can hand over to you for a second, maybe just to introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about what you've been up to recently.
Well, I'm Brock Pierce, and grateful to be here. Glad to teach and to learn. That's how things get done. And so I'm really just, I guess, a bit of a futurist, someone that cares about our collective best interests. And I've got a lot of questions, and I'm concerned. You know, never in our history has humanity or civilization faced so many existential threats, you know, at a time where things are global. What affects one of us really affects all of us. I mean, we've got economic division, political division, racial division. We've got geopolitical challenges, environmental challenges, pandemics. I mean, you know, don't lose hope, right? So I'm just someone that tries to do everything I possibly can with the time that I've been given. And I think, as you correctly pointed out, I've got a lot of background in technology, a lot of it on the forefront of innovation. I'm only interested in jobs that no one else will or can do. Someone else is able and willing. Good luck with that. How can I help you? And that has turned into getting very involved in politics, specifically here in the United States of America, but also in working with foreign governments to see how technology can be used as a tool for positive impact or transformation. And so glad to be here.
All right, incredible. You know, your vision or your purpose as a person is really aligned a lot to what Singularity is trying to achieve in terms of using technology to make this world a better place. So that's incredible. So Brock, I think everyone in this space has that 30-second elevator pitch to describe what is Bitcoin, how does it work? What's your pitch? I'm dying to hear it.
Well, I mean, again, it depends on circumstances. My answer is always tailored to the audience. You know, okay. you try to speak to people in language they can understand. And so as a generic answer, it's the same thing that you're typically going to hear, that this is a tool for freedom, a tool for liberation that is not owned or controlled or run by anyone. This is a decentralized, really, I'm not sure I use the term currency just yet, not to say that it can't be or won't be in the future. It's more of a digital commodity, I think kind of gold 2.0. And at a time during financial uncertainty, you know, we've printed over $20 trillion in the last year and a half. People are looking for alternative stores of value, and this is a very interesting one in the sense that you can send it anywhere near instantaneously, break it into any denomination that you like, and you can't counterfeit it. And so I'd say in many ways it's superior to gold, and that's the main thing. But beyond that, what is its purpose? And this is where I'll get more into the philosophy. So I'm giving you a couple of answers at once. What Bitcoin really is doing to the world, you know, think of it less of the reason why people buy it. A lot of that is because they're looking for a store of value to speculate, things of that nature. But at its core, what is it really doing? It's restoring accountability in a world that is lacking in accountability. It's bringing transparency to a market which is very opaque. It's democratizing opportunity and making it accessible to everyone, not just those at the top. And it's bringing utility or tools to everyone, like I think Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Again, we're trying to create a world that can work for everyone from the top to the bottom. And Bitcoin at its core philosophically is solving many of these major problems that exist in the world.
Okay, great. And, you know, headline news at the moment is really what's going on in El Salvador. And I know that you've in some way been involved or connected. It's just across the ocean from where you are. Can you give us a bit of insights into what's happened now that El Salvador is accepting Bitcoin as legal tender?
Well, the numbers are huge. So this went live on September 7th. And within the first 2 weeks, over 1 million El Salvadorians have downloaded a Bitcoin wallet, the Chivo wallet. Over 1 million, and the total population is about 6.5 million. So it's about to be 20% of the population. McDonald's, Walmart, not that I recommend eating at McDonald's, but all of these places are now accepting Bitcoin. We are seeing, the first nation where, we're going to see massive amount of adoption. The government is buying Bitcoin, offering everyone in the country $30 worth of free Bitcoin as an incentive to be onboarded. And so this is incredibly exciting. Part of the reason that El Salvador was the first country to really do this is they basically run on the US dollar. And so they don't have an incumbent central bank. They don't have the ability to print their own money. And that typically would be call it the party that would object to such a thing. And so you don't have that, call it roadblock, that stands in the way. They don't have the ability to print money. They don't have the ability to access capital in the same way that most countries do. And as a result of that, they had an open mind. You also had a new government that came in that was not part of either of the two historic political parties. A third party, a New Ideas party, came in and beat out the two incumbent political parties. The government is incredibly entrepreneurial. They put forward this law and implemented it in 90 days. That would be aggressive for a startup. And we're talking about a government. And so it's just amazing to see how entrepreneurial the government is. They've attracted a lot of the best and the brightest from foreign nations. You have a lot of basically exiled Venezuelans, the best and the brightest Venezuelans that, have left because of the state of things there. And so it's a government comprised not only of El Salvadorians, but, people from Latin America that are incredibly talented. So it's exciting to see. Obviously, we're still in the very early phases, and perfection is the enemy of progress. It's not going to be perfect on day one, but I'd say it's rather extraordinary, and I'd say historic what is happening here. And when we look back in the decades, centuries, and millenniums to come, if civilization makes it through, I think that we're going to look back on this as something that was an event that really started to facilitate the change that many of us have seen as possible in the world. And all eyes are on El Salvador. There are many governments. I'm dealing with about 40 different nation states right now. There is a lot of interest in what El Salvador has done here, and not just in making Bitcoin legal tender. There's the developing world, has been told like, oh yeah, no, where things are going to get better, but it doesn't really. What has, so-called served us in the past is not likely going to serve us in the future. And you're seeing a lot of interest in, how technology can be used as a tool for transformation, and a lot of courage, coming out of these places, because you have, major problems with financial inclusion. 70% of the population of El Salvador is running on cash. They're unbanked. This is a real tool that can deliver financial inclusion, ubiquitous financial inclusion. The wallet in El Salvador has zero fees, and can be of great service in the remittance markets as well. And so very exciting. We've been down there a number of times. We brought the first formal delegation to El Salvador since COVID. We brought about 30, 40 of entrepreneurs, CEOs, visionaries in the space that come from a background of ATMs and payments and exchanges and KYC infrastructure and government. Just not asking for anything, but to say, hey, here's all the things we can do. You guys are trying to be courageous and brave and bold, and the future favors the bold. You're trying to move quickly. Here's all the stuff we can share with you. Let's just give you a data dump of knowledge. Tell us all the things and challenges you face and the concerns, and let us see where we can help. We go in with no expectations. We didn't want anything, at least the organizers don't, and just say, how can we help? How can we be of service? And a number of the people that were part of that delegation have provided a lot of the infrastructure and the things that have facilitated this rollout. And we're doing this around the world. And the line of heads of state don't have the ability to be two places at once. Literally, the ambassadors are calling on a daily basis saying, when can you get to us? We need help.
It's really, it's incredible, Brock, because I think that countries feel a bit helpless, that they don't know where to start with these things. And you probably need to follow some more formal channels, or, consult with sort of big, multinational, no, I don't want to say multinational, like global bodies to ask their advice or opinions on what actually should be doing. But some countries, as you say, they just need that data dump to say, this is how it works. this is what's available. This is what El Salvador's done. This works. People are going to need access to a wallet. And it's just that 101 information that a lot of these emerging markets actually require, and they can go off then on their own and do it. So do you think, like, leading into that, I mean, obviously something like this has a lot of, questions around it from other governments. There's a question around volatility of Bitcoin as a currency. Do you think that the countries that are going to follow suit, I think I'm trying to go down that route to say, do you think other countries will follow very quickly? And what sort of countries? Are we going to see the more developed world go there? Or do you think we're really going to see these sort of more undeveloped emerging markets taking those first few steps, and then only we'll see more developed countries adopting it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the developing world. The G20 will be, not first, because they're the ones on top. They stand to benefit the least, right? It's the people on the bottom, those that have been excluded and lived through hardship, that are the most open-minded to try new things. The status quo, right? The incumbents are normally the ones that are happy with the way that things are. It's everybody else that's like, what can we do different? This isn't working for us. And so that's where we're seeing it, and where we're likely going to continue to see it for the short term. But there's a lot of financial uncertainty, and as you pointed out, the volatility. Yes, volatility is very real. El Salvador, and the way that I would describe the way that these wallets are being built, is you have a digital dollar in your wallet. Think of that as your current, or like what we often think of as our checking accounts, right? That's your account where you pay your bills, you buy your groceries, like you've got your money set aside to cover your living expenses, your operating expenses, right? Bitcoin is really your savings account, right? And your savings account is going to come in two ways. You're going to have your DeFi accounts, which most consumers won't even know what that is, but what it's accessing is these new higher interest-bearing yielding accounts, because you're tapping into a market that has disintermediated a lot of the fat out of the value chain. It's why we're seeing 5 to 10% interest rates on digital dollars in DeFi. These are interest rates that no bank can compare with. We've gone from zero to what's soon going to be $100 billion basically in a year into interest-bearing DeFi accounts that'll quickly become $1 trillion when in Europe you've got negative interest rates. At best you're seeing 1 to 2% from banks. Our market and securitized can offer 5 to 10%, because we've cut out all of the basically expenses of a bank, and so you as the lender are receiving pretty much all the benefits from the borrower. You've just completely stripped out all the fat. And so as a result of that, you're seeing that. And then Bitcoin obviously is your basically long-term sort of savings, but even that can be now lended out, and yield can be achieved in a way that you can't really do with gold and otherwise.
Yeah. So Brock, do you think that, based on what you've said now, do you think that people will end up with two currencies? They'll end up with, as you said, the Bitcoin from a saving perspective, and then still their fiat currency for day-to-day spending?
Yeah, I don't think that government issued currency is going away anytime soon, because of the markets are all priced in it. It's going to take quite a while for, well, first of all, people don't want to spend Bitcoin typically, right? Because once you understand the value proposition, and call it deflationary, it's not really deflationary yet because they're still being issued, but we call it predetermined, inflation, so that you can, so that does in some ways behave deflationary, but fixed supply. Most people are like, oh, during times of financial uncertainty, hodl your Bitcoin. And so most people are going to want to do that. And then, because you're going into the stores, things are not, it's going to take a while for things to as a medium of exchange, right? As a tool for that, government issued currencies are still ideal today. That may change in the future, but that's really all going to be determined by governments and central banks, right? The reason why Bitcoin and real estate prices and things like this, and the stock market's not up. The idea that we're seeing record prices in the stock market, right? We're seeing record prices in real estate. It's not that these things are appreciating. It's that trust and confidence in government issued currency and the amount of money being printed the value of money is declining. And it's creating the illusion of appreciation in other markets. The reality is that we're undermining our financial system. We're undermining the value of our government issued currencies because we're printing it like there's no tomorrow. And I'm not, if you're going to shut down businesses and tell people they can't go to work, I agree. You have to do that. You're going to have to print a bunch of money because you can't tell people you're not allowed to work, you're not allowed to run your business, and then not do something to help them. So, I mean, this is a necessary thing to do if you're going to make the decisions that were made, right? Cause and effect. But I do believe that's going to be the case for the foreseeable future, unless we really undermine currency. And I think that's what we're seeing here. And if we continue to operate with call it a lack of accountability, what did I say Bitcoin is doing? It's bringing accountability to markets. It's called, if you behave irresponsibly, don't blame Bitcoin. These are your actions. And the market is reacting to your decisions. You can't just print $20+ trillion in a year and not expect something to happen. The people are smart and we're doing our best to empty our bank accounts as fast as possible to buy, and I mean people with money, right? Institutions and high net worth family offices. We are unloading our capital as fast as we can. We don't want to be in bonds because even with a bond with a 5% yield, you're losing money. The rate at which capital is being printed right now, you have to be in equities. You have to be in real estate. You have to be in things like Bitcoin, because the value of our money is disintegrating, almost in real time. Now, that doesn't mean it has to stay that way. This may just be a special circumstance, a one-off event, and we get back to, being accountable again. We'll see. Again, this is why it's so important that we put the right elected officials in office. People that actually understand what's going on here. I mean, I'm just kind of horrified by what I'm seeing in the U.S. I can't speak for what's happening all over the world because I haven't had enough of those conversations. But we have elected officials in office that are making decisions about this technology as we live through the fourth industrial revolution that literally have done zero work to understand what's happening here. Zero work. Just put in regulations regarding cryptocurrency on the back of an infrastructure bill. Just like they did with internet gambling in 2006, they put that on a port bill, port safety, kind of following 9/11. So what does internet gaming have to do with shipping and ports and security? Absolutely nothing, but this is how we operate in the United States. We jam in a bunch of laws that have nothing to do with the headline, and then we have a bunch of elected officials vote on it that have done zero work. I mean, imagine if on the back of an infrastructure bill or, they decided to outlaw the internet or regulate the internet back in 1996. That's the equivalent of what's just been done here. I don't have a problem with an elected official disagreeing with me, but you've been to work. I have a major problem affect our collective future, our entire nation, all of our lives and the generations that follow, and you didn't even bother to take the time to ask a question to understand what you're voting on. It's irresponsible, it's reckless, and you can destroy the world with that type of behavior. And, this is, why I've gotten involved in politics. And I make myself available. I talk to members of the Congressional House Financial Services Committee. I talk to members of Congress, the Senate, state, local legislators, regulators. I do this day in, day out as fast as I can to give them the information necessary so they can make the best decisions. Because I forgive them for they know not what they do. A lot of times they just haven't been given the information, and a lot of them are embarrassed. I've found everyone I've talked to are curious. They're like, Brock, I'm glad we're in a private meeting because I'm just embarrassed to say I really have no idea how any of this stuff works. Can you break it down for me? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And what I've noticed in every one of these meetings is there is what appears to be genuine, real interest in knowledge. Because remember, it's human nature to fear that which we don't understand. And you conquer fear with knowledge. And so a lot of that is just getting out there and providing the information to the people in a position of authority to make these decisions. Because if we want them to make sensible decisions, if we want them to make good decisions on our behalf, they have to have the necessary information to do so. You're not going to be able to do that in a vacuum. And just what shocks me is how few of those conversations have actually been had to date, and how little effort has actually been, at least in the United States, proactively. And most of these elected officials, these senators and such, They've got aides. Why don't they have like a technology aide on their team that's out there doing the research and presenting them with the information, at least giving them, I mean, there's a general lack of this. And I assume this is true throughout the rest of the world. And, you know, the point I hope to empower everyone paying attention is we do have an ability to make a difference. You know, a lot of times we're like, I'm just one person. You know, there's not, what can I do about this? You know, and you're just kind of like, oh, the task or the job just seems too big. You know, but teamwork makes this collective dream work. And enough of us get involved and take the time to connect with our governments, our elected officials, talk to our regulators. You know, I think we're all in this together. We win together. And if we're empowering enough, right, we only have the power to change ourselves. But by us being our best selves, we have the ability to inspire others and like get out there and do the work. You know, the world needs us now. Like if ever there was a moment, you know, the time is now, and we have the tools. Right, we have 21st century tools to, you know, innovation is the answer to almost all of the world's problems.
Yeah, I agree.
We can do this.
And I think, I mean, that's the incredible thing about the crypto and the Bitcoin space really, is it's giving us that opportunity where you know, access to the internet is enough to put that power in people's hands, in governments' hands, to actually do something innovative in this space. You know, it's that openness of what Bitcoin embraces that allows us to do something new and different. So I love it. Now, Brock, you've been involved in so many like interesting projects that are crypto related in your career up to date. Is there anything that sticks out as the one that you think is sort of an incredible venture that you've been on? And can you share any insights on anything else that you're involved with at the moment?
Well, so I'm been involved formally in well over 100 crypto projects, but I'll just talk about a couple. The only ones that like go in my resume per se are the ones where we were the first to invent categories. I'm not confined by the box known as reality, right? I live outside of the box. I can see kind of around corners. And so I like to build things that have never been built before. And so Mastercoin, back in the summer of 2013, we invented the ICO, was chairman there. Blockchain Capital started that, the first venture fund in the space. It's on its fifth fund. Last fund was $300 million, led by PayPal and Visa. I stopped being a managing partner there after our third fund when we invented the security token and created the first ever security token called BCAP, where I was also a founding advisor and investor in T0. Those are the first two projects to invent that category, recognizing how all stocks and bonds and things are eventually going to center on better, faster, cheaper rails. And that's what this is, and secure. Started the first crypto bank, Noble Bank down here in Puerto Rico. We started Tether, invented the stable coin, and yeah, lots of, this is the stuff that I find interesting. And I ran for president of the United States last year. The first ever vote cast on a blockchain in a general election for a presidential candidate was a vote for me on the blockchain, and may that be the data point that says that, you know, this is a technology that is likely going to be used in our elections. And so in the state of Utah, they implemented blockchain-based voting in the presidential election in one of the counties, Utah County. And so
you're the genesis vote in the US election blockchain.
Yeah, and then my partners, Eric Poulier, Jonathan Yantis, William Quigley, that was Block, V, and Wax. Those were the first two platforms to create the NFT markets. We've been at the forefront of, you know, call it a lot of the innovation in the space. And so
Brock,
it would be a long conversation to go through all the things I do. And generally, it's not important. You know, I'm not looking for more credibility. You know, it's like I think I've got more credit than I know what to do with, and credit is cheap. And so most of what I'm interested in is just figuring out how to build others up to further empower them so that they can do more and more effectively and with greater ease.
So, I mean, so we've seen these trends and I'm putting you a bit on the spot here. We've seen these trends in terms of Bitcoin coming, and then we had the ICO boom and we had the DeFi boom. We got the NFTs going at the moment. Any views on what's going to come next after this hype cycle we're going through now?
You know, there's always going to be a bunch of those things. The question is what at scale. I think that the big thing that we're seeing right now is what we're seeing in El Salvador, which is, you know, in the beginning you had adoption started basically with gamers, libertarians, anarchists, cypherpunks, these sort of things. Then it became academia. After academia, it became venture sort of capital. After that, it became big tech. Then it became banks, and now we're seeing government, right? We're, the final, piece of, call it the final validation is here. It doesn't really go beyond that. Now it's just a matter of how does this all get integrated, in what order and where and how. But I think we're going to be seeing a lot of what we're seeing in El Salvador. Is a big thing, which is the dream that we've all talked about, which is, financial inclusion. Again, there's 4 to 4.5 billion people on the planet that are on or underbanked. It's a majority of the population of the world doesn't have the financial tools for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They can't really pursue happiness without winning the lottery. If you don't have a device, a connected device and basic financial tools, the odds of you living a prosperous life is incredibly low. And so, there's all sorts of little things you're seeing, marriages on blockchains, voting on blockchains, and these things are all happening. The DeFi thing is going to get huge, because right now you're seeing it just for, the endemic industry, right? We're using it ourselves as crypto people. But when the rest of the world sees the yields, that can be had when you save your money, even just your digital dollars, your fiat currency, in a crypto wallet infrastructure, and that it pays 5 to 10 times more than any bank will ever be able to pay, I'd say that just starts a tsunami, which also is scary, because that can create a run on the banks.
Yeah. And then, Brock, just for our local audience then, what can South Africa do? What should we be doing as a people, as a country, as a government? What advice would you have to this country and our people at this current time?
The future is going to happen to you or with you. You can't stop change. Change is a constant in the universe. What you can do is you can get in the water with your board, and when that tidal wave comes, you can ride it and you can be the beneficiary of it, or it runs you over. This is the reality. There is no stopping positive change. This is how the world has been and will always be. And so my advice would be, get involved. Let's co-create a future that works for all of us and that we all want to win. We can all win together. Innovation and technology is clearly here. It's changing the world. And the question is, are you going to be a beneficiary of it? And I think that places like South Africa are as well positioned as anywhere in the world. Obviously, the African continent stands to benefit greatly from technology. South Africa being one of the leading nations that has the ability to lead the way, to show the way, to inspire the way. I'm here to support, to assist, and help make that happen in any way that I can. And then to the people as well. I mean, the future is going to happen. I encourage you to get involved. I've never once, and you can go back, I think, and watch every speech, any article, ever encouraged anyone to invest in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. I mean, other than I've said, maybe buy $100 or $10 based on what you can afford. Because I don't give people investment advice. The only thing I've ever done is encouraged you to invest in yourselves, to invest in your own knowing so that you can make informed decisions for yourself. And if you haven't done it yet, and you're certainly someone showing up to an event like this, go buy your $20, go buy your $100 worth of Bitcoin so that you have real firsthand experience in understanding what this is all about. Because I can talk to you till I'm blue in my face, about, call it email. But once you go send your first email after you've been, using stationery and envelopes and stamps, you're like, I got it. I see, and so, I just hope that, my words give you hope and remind you of all the incredible positive potential of, where we can go, and that this inspires you in some way to take that first step for yourself.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Brock. Okay, I think we've got about 30 seconds. Any closing thoughts, wrap up that you want to give?
Well, I brought my friend Akon into crypto at the Milk and Global Conference in 2014. He was going to get on stage, and I said, Akon, jump on stage and say, Bitcoin Africa, it's going to change the world. He's like, Brock, but I'm not ready. What if they ask me any questions? I said, they're going to assume you know because they don't know. Just do it. He's like, you're sure? I'm like, yeah. And that was the first major celebrity. And the line was Bitcoin Africa. It's going to change the world. So here we are.
Awesome. Awesome. Great, Brock. Thanks so much. Great interview. And I'm sure everyone at the summit's going to love it. So thanks very much. And I hope everyone enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me.